Haven't done it in a while, huh?
I haven't done this in so long. The last time we sat on this porch in this little setup, I was pregnant.
Wow, it was that long ago.
Yeah, she's gonna be 3 in September.
Yikes.
So it's probably been 3 years. It was probably springtime that we sat here.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm excited. Allow me to introduce you to my dear friend, my brother in healing, Quentin. Wellness expert Quentin Venny shouldn't be alive. He's walked a path that many don't live long enough to write about. Surrounded by dead ends and haunted by addiction, abandonment, and violence, he's battled anxiety and depression for most of his life. He's been shot at twice, sold drugs up and down the East Coast, lingered on the brink of incarceration, and stared down death more than once. But when another moment of crisis arose, Quentin made a conscious choice to turn away from his self-destructive path and began a journey of natural healing that ultimately saved his life. Today, I'm hanging out with Quentin in a familiar spot, my back porch in New Jersey, talking about his brand new, very special project. I hope you enjoy our talk enough to like this video, share with your friends, and leave your comments and questions below. We're going to get to all of them. And now, without further adu, my friend Quentin. So today is a really big deal because we are talking about, we're talking about you. Yeah. And I love you.
Love you.
This is Quentin Venny, QuentinVenny.com. You are good at so many things, but right now we're adding to your list of amazing things that you've done. Author, Strong in the Broken Places, a memoir of addiction and redemption through wellness. What is this book? What is this book about?
Well, it's a memoir. It's a book detailing my life, my experiences growing up in Baltimore. Father was a heroin addict, raised by a single mother, you know, in pretty rough environment, you know. So it details my experiences. The book starts out, you know, I'm 10 years old, and it was the day that I discovered that my father was an addict, and you know, from that moment, it was pretty much like the catalyst for what my life would become. You know, it just goes through the journey from being a 10-year-old to being a teenager, you know, being diagnosed with anxiety and depression at 14 to, you know, going through, you know, adulthood, and then being diagnosed again with, you know, severe generalized anxiety and panic disorder and major, mild to severe major depressive disorder, and going through addiction and really coming out on the other side of it, you know, a better person than I was when I started. So
let's talk, before we go back, let's talk about where you are now. We're on my back porch and there's lawnmowers going off and the kids might start making noise. Your 2 boys are here playing with my kids. We were sitting in my kitchen and I was looking at your book and I got a little teary, and I'm not someone who cries because this is such a big deal. Yeah. And the 2 of us, we work in this industry and we're surrounded, you know, we're very fortunate to be surrounded by a lot of amazing people who are doing amazing things, writing books, hosting TV shows, creating programs, healing people, traveling around the world and sharing their passions. But that's not normal. No. It's not normal to have accomplished so much that you put it in a book and people want to read about it. Yeah. So right now, tell me a little bit about your life and where you are and what's going on for you and how that is in such contrast to what you thought might happen for you.
I didn't foresee my life ever being this. You know, society depicted my demise to be 21. Like I was, you know, so, you know, when you come from a place, like I have a lot of good friends that I came up with that never lived to see 25. They never made it to see 30. And we lived very similar lives, you know, had very similar experiences. So, you know, to be where I am today, I'm grateful, I'm blessed, I'm sincerely humbled, you know, to even have the opportunities that I have right now.
But why would society say that you shouldn't live to 25? Like, let's just say it, because they wouldn't say that about me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a black man in America that grew up in one of the roughest cities in the country.
You're from Baltimore.
I'm from Baltimore. The life expectancy for black males, you know, is not, it doesn't exceed 30. So everything that I was doing in my life prior to turning 30, I was pretty much living every day like it was my last, because I was faced with that possibility every day.
And what does that look like when you're living every day like it's your last? Are you going to Paris?
No, no,
No,
no.
no.
It's not that extravagant.
No.
You know, it's really just, you know, trying to maximize every moment, because you don't know, you know, when that's going to change. You know what I mean? And and I think that was the beginning of everything for me. The anxiety, the mental health issues, the anger problems, like that was everything. Because like, how can you find a level of solidarity within yourself if you're not even expecting yourself to live long enough, you know, to experience anything great? So where I am now, I'm happy.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So how does that change? Because right now I'm looking at you and you are a wellness professional, you're a coach, you're an author, you're teaching people how to change their lives for the better, you're guiding them through their own struggles with anxiety and depression. What happened in your life that took you from the stories that you're telling in this book to green juice and yoga and sitting on my farm in New Jersey talking about wellness?
You know, starting out, I mean, even though I went to, yeah, even though I was living in pretty, you know, a pretty rough environment, I went to, you know, good schools. You know, my mother got me into pretty good schools early on. Now, with that, I did experience a lot of racial divide and discrimination and racism, but it did show me that there was more to life than Baltimore City. And I think that exposure, you know, really pushed me to want more. And despite going through all of these things, it's like, you know, I feel like in life, you can't have anything without balance, right? Like life is, you can't have up without down, you can't have left without right. So you can't have good without bad. And, you know, like I have context now, you know, so when I was going through the anxiety and the addiction and the depression, and I attempted suicide twice, you know, it was like that second suicide attempt kind of led me to, for the first time, to feel like my life had a purpose. Because even left to my own vices, I couldn't even kill myself right. So it's like, okay, I'm obviously here for a reason. Now let me be responsible enough to figure out what that reason is.
And what did the first step look like to find that purpose?
The first step was fear. It was fear driven. I had no idea what to do. I had no idea where to go. I went back to my doctor to talk to him because I felt like he was, you know, he should have been the solution. And when I realized that he wasn't my doctor, he was my dealer, and he was a dead end, you know, I took my fight to God, and I sat in my car for like 45 minutes. I cried. I cursed him, you know, I questioned him. But then I asked for guidance, and I asked him to lead me in the direction that he wanted me to go in, because I was lost. I had no idea what to do. And from there, you know, I just started researching, just figuring it out. I wanted to know what it was that I had. I wanted to find other people that, you know, healed themselves. I wanted to know, like, what can I do? You know, I was determined to fight to live.
So this is very interesting, and I want to talk more about your doctor being your dealer. But before that, your prayers to God or your conversation with God, because I got this question recently where someone said, you know, how did you even know that there was a way to find healing on your own? And I've always had this strong relationship with God, even though my faith was tested and maybe it wasn't at the forefront, you know, I wasn't practicing it. But I always had this relationship and these conversations, and there was always somewhere in me that knew that I was powerful because I was made to be powerful, and I was made with divine intention. And that, I think, was, you know, and I never been asked it, but when I said, okay, well, that's what it was, is that I had this belief inside me that I must be able to heal myself because I was made by God. So where did you get the idea that you could heal yourself, or that people were out there even healing themselves?
Well, I grew up in a Catholic faith initially. Okay. So, you know, my religious beliefs were very much, you know, built around Catholicism. As I got older, you know, I converted to AME. So I always had a relationship with God. I always felt like there was something greater than me. Like the things that we experience on a day-to-day basis are miracles. And, you know, so I always knew that we were stronger than we gave ourselves credit for as people. God made us in his likeness and in his image. And if God is perfect, then that means that we have perfection, right? So if we have that level of power, I think at some point we have to stop looking at external sources as the cause and the cure and start looking at ourselves. And I think that's where it came from for me, because when I didn't have anything else, when I was looking externally, when I was asking for advice and I was looking for guidance, I was searching for this. I'd never had a mentor or anything. Like, I never had anyone. I was looking for this and I couldn't find it anywhere. And it was like when my back was against the wall, all I had was God, and God just showed me that you have everything already.
Yeah. We've had these conversations before. We've made other videos and we talked about gurus and mentors and teachers and how they show up in the world and how we want to show up in the world. And who are your mentors?
That's interesting.
Who do you look up to?
I look up to a lot of people. I consider you a mentor. I look up to, Chris Carr, Tara Stiles, Wes Moore, my mother. I feel like we can find mentorship, in just the shared experiences of other people. It's that level of relatability, that congregation, that's the greatest mentorship to me. So I wouldn't necessarily say that there's one person. I learned from so many people's experiences.
I very much appreciate that point of view. Something that I share with my audience every day is this idea of having a shared purpose, of being here to love and to be loved, to learn and to teach. And that's how I approach mentorship and finding my teachers. It's like, what can I glean off of this person's personal experience? What can I learn from their life that I wouldn't be able to learn from my own? And while I do have teachers that show up in my life and the relationship gets very intense and it gets very real, and I ask them, please teach me what you know so I can add to my own wisdom. Mostly I'm just looking to people. I think I'm learning from all kinds of unlikely gurus every day. Mm-hmm. I so appreciate when people show up and they're self-expressed and they're into sharing. Yeah. I love it. I hate secrets. Yeah. As you know, I'm always asking you, always trying to get all the details.
Trying to get everything. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel the same way, and I didn't always, but it was like, when I started this healing journey, like, that's what I needed, because I didn't know anything about yoga. I didn't know anything about juicing or meditation. Like, coming from where I come from, like, we don't even talk about mental health. You can't, I can't walk down the street with a buddy of mine and say, you know what, James, I'm feeling depressed today. Like, that's just not a conversation that we have. It's like, okay, well, here, smoke this weed, or, drink this alcohol, and, just get over it.
Do you think that can change, though?
Nothing. What can change?
The culture of the conversation about mental health. Do you think it could change even with the guys that you were hanging out with growing up?
I do. I feel very confident in that. I feel confident in it because, we only know what we've been exposed to, right? People can only act out of their own level of understanding. Mm-hmm. So if your entire life you're taught that, vulnerability is weakness, then that's what you're going to believe until you see someone that looks like you, that has a shared experience as you, whether you know them, personally, or there's some kind of indirect connection there, it opens up the opportunity to further the conversation. Yeah. Everybody feels something. I think we, especially as men, there's this mask of masculinity that, we were given from birth. We were not supposed to have emotion. We were not supposed to be vulnerable. We were supposed to be strong, warrior, dominant people. But what does that look like? And why does that always have to be Tarzan? You know what I mean? It doesn't, we can still be protectors and we can still be, providers and still be vulnerable. And I'm raising 2 boys right now. And I have a open door policy in my household that, instead of getting angry about something, because anger to me is the weakest emotion and it's the easiest one for us to grab, instead of us getting angry about it and making the problem worse, let's have a conversation about it and let's find a resolution. And it's okay to cry. It's okay to be emotional. It's okay to feel. And for a long time in my life, I didn't think it was okay to feel. So I looked for external things to numb that so I wouldn't have to. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think that's the culture that we live in, especially as it pertains to men, because all of us in some way are dealing with mental health, issues, whether it's, directly or indirectly. We all know someone that's going through something. Yeah. So the conversation needs to expand. And,
And it is. It's interesting. This morning I was watching a video of Mr. Rogers from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood on Facebook. And it was his testimony. I think it was in 1969. He was giving testimony about how important it is to teach children how to talk about their feelings. Because before that, we weren't talking about feelings with each other or with children. And now it's so common. It's like, of course you talk to kids about their feelings. Of course you want them to express themselves. But that wasn't what was happening. And children in that way were an underserved community. Like no one was talking to them other than cartoons or, whatever they had going on at the time, entertainment. And I think, the work that both of us do is about serving the underserved and bringing this conversation to people that wouldn't necessarily be having the conversation or have access to the tools that we have access to good health care, access to people talking about spirituality or talking about soul's purpose, or even just about navigating every day in a healthy, happy way. So I'm very appreciative of you for that. So your doctor was your dealer.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
I think, we're in a society, in a culture where, I think a lot of doctors are legal drug dealers. My doctor told me that my disorder was so severe, I need to be on medication for the rest of my life. And this is 5 years this year that I haven't taken medication for anything, So it's like, he was the first person that I admitted to that I was an addict. The first time that I even admitted it to myself was in his office.
And what was his response?
He kind of laughed it off. He was like, well, I don't think that's a problem. And then he reverted back to, well, have you been having anxiety issues? Well, no. Well, then the medication's working.
So you were addicted to anxiety meds.
I was addicted to anxiety medication. Yeah. And when I told him I didn't want to be on medication anymore, he came up with the genius idea of putting me on Xanax as opposed to Ativan because it wasn't as strong, And I had to pick my poison. I said, hey, well, just give me what I already have. And that's when I took the refill slip and sat in my car for 45 minutes. And it was in that moment I realized that he was my dealer. And it was identifiable for me because years prior, I was a dealer myself. So I knew the signs. And it was his goal to keep me under his control.
Yeah. And this is a conversation we've had before. And it's so important that people have an awareness of options, because mental health in this country, the way that the medical establishment deals with it is incredibly unhealthy, almost to the point of being cruel.
Yeah.
They do nothing to destigmatize it. They do nothing to give people the options that are out there for them. And that's why we have the conversation. It's not to say that prescription psychiatric drugs are bad.
Correct.
It's not to say that, natural alternative healing is the best.
Correct.
It's that you need to have an understanding and knowledge of all the options that are available to you so that you can make an educated decision based on the guru that is inside of you.
Right.
Because everyone has, we're all our own gurus.
Absolutely.
And whether we're practicing or not. So we need to be able to discern whether or not something's good for us. And that's not what's being presented.
No.
So, because that's how I started my journey. I mean, I have a long mental health history starting from childhood. 28 years old, I was dealing with anxiety and depression again. I walked into my doctor's office, and without even knowing me, my general practitioner wanted to prescribe psychiatric drugs. And I had enough knowledge and know-how and awareness to say, okay, I don't think this is the path that I want to take. And I went on a natural healing route. But I was lucky, and you were lucky, because we had this awareness.
And everybody's not so lucky.
No.
And that's the reason why the conversations need to be had. I don't think that medication should be the first rule of defense in combating anything. You know what I mean? If it's not an acute life-saving, there's no amount of green juice that's going to stop you from having an allergy, allergic reaction, but it doesn't necessarily need to be the first rule of defense. I didn't know anything about CBT. I didn't know about any kind of therapy. I didn't know about yoga. I didn't know about meditation. I didn't know that my diet was a contributing factor to my anxiety symptoms. I didn't know any of that. And it was never explained to me. I had to find it on my own. Yeah. And, you know, so many people are like, they're not as fortunate. You know, sometimes they don't make it out. And that's the most unfortunate part about all of it.
And people need to realize, you know, you all need to realize that we have many tools that we use and that our practice changes over time.
Absolutely.
You know, my main modality for self-healing has been meditation, meditation and prayer, and the way that I do it, checking in constantly throughout the day, taking these short amounts of time to create chapter breaks in my day, to create moments of peace and calm, because I do feel anxiety throughout the day. Mm-hmm. Diet, mm-hmm. exercise, green juice. For me, it's smoothies. For you, it's juice. We have so many different ways that we find healing, and it changes depending on where we are in our lives. And the biggest blessing has been having access to all of those things. Yeah. Like, I know if I'm having an acute panic episode, I can call up Jess Ortner from the Tapping Solution and be like, girl, tap me out of this. Exactly. Because I need this help. But not everyone has that access. Right. And that's why, I mean, this is like the most inexpensive way to find healing. It's like pick up Quentin's book and read his book and read your story and find inspiration in that for your own life. See how it relates to your own life. Or, you know, watch our video for free, or, you know, join a Facebook group where you can find support. Like, there's so many different ways to find support and healing. And I think the problem is, you know, with as much information as out there, you know, not enough people are aware of it. You know me, I'm a private person. I don't share a lot of my life, you know. But I felt that's like why this is so big. I felt like this was necessary because you know, in this book, I talk about things that I've never talked about before, things that I've never wanted to ever talk about, things that I've like kind of put in the back of my mind, and you know, and this book was a source of healing for me, because you know, like there were moments I had to like stop and, you know, put it away for a few days. You know, I cried writing this book. I had to relive these experiences. But for me, you know, this is something, what we're doing, our work is greater than us, and it's something that's going to outlive us. And it's very necessary if it can help change or save someone else's life. I feel like, you know, like with Chris Carr, if she never shared her story, I probably wouldn't be here, because she was the greatest inspiration for me at that time. Yeah. I mean, you know how influential she was in my life. Exactly. You know, seeing her on Oprah when I was struggling to leave a marriage that was killing me, and with 3 little kids, and then to now where she wrote the foreword of my book, which is crazy. Right. But that's what happens when you take those tiny steps towards what is there for you. And that's my greatest message for people, is that everything that we have, everything I have, everything you have, it's for them too. Yeah. And I hope that they find our stories inspirational in the way that they take it into their own lives and say, I have a voice too. I have a story that's worthy of being told. Yeah. I have influence in my life. I can save other people's lives just by sharing the little bits of wisdom that have been absorbed from living life on this earth. Yeah. Everyone has that. I'm so grateful for you, because in a very, very, very noisy, crowded world of wellness, where a lot of people are saying a lot of the same stuff, all good, but coming from the same place, I'm grateful for you coming from a very different place, looking very different than all of us, and with a different level of passion and experience and wisdom that has been yet untapped. So I'm very excited for you in this book, and for our friendship, and for you being here. Last question. So, if you could leave the audience with any bit of wisdom that you really, really, really want them to know, what would it be? 3 things. God is real. Prayer works. You are capable. God is real, prayer works, and I am capable. I love that. That's it. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate you, friend. Can I have a hug? Of course. All right. Is it good? Yeah, it was great. Close your eyes and start paying attention to your breath as it is in this moment. Notice your inhales and exhales as they travel in, through, and out of your body. Just notice. There's no need to change a thing. All is well. Hi, my name is Rebekah Borucki, and I want to show you how to find your own personal bliss. I have a website called BEXLIFE.com where I share my life as a wife and a mother of 5, and also where I teach people how to love themselves more through living mindfully. I'm also the author of a brand new book, You Have 4 Minutes to Change Your Life, and I can't wait for you to read it. I've taught hundreds of thousands of people how to create simple yet powerful meditation practices. After years of suffering from anxiety and depression that took root in childhood, I took control of my mental and physical health through yoga and fitness and a homegrown 4-minute daily meditation practice. My book will guide you through 27 different meditations that will help you cope with complex issues like grief, body acceptance, and relationships. You'll also read deeply personal stories from my life that show how meditation has helped me overcome my own big challenges. I promise that by spending just 4 minutes a day with this practice, you'll find deep, meaningful, and lasting healing. You'll learn to connect to yourself more fully and find your bliss. Pick up You Have 4 Minutes to Change Your Life. Simple 4-minute meditations for inspiration, transformation, and true bliss wherever books are sold.